Bron, for coming along and having a chat with me about the coaching experience that we just wrapped up. I'm really excited to have a chat to you about this to see, what value you got out of it and what you would say to others who might be considering signing on with some coaching, either with me or someone else, really. So just to kind of lay the scene, we obviously had a 3-month package around coaching on DEI work. Did you want to tell me a little bit about why you reached out for coaching? Why did you think that would be something that would be helpful for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I am reasonably new to the DEI space. It's something that's always been part of what I did in my previous work, but not solely. And so when I started in my role as the diversity and inclusion manager, I found, I guess that obviously I don't know everything, and my knowledge gap was reasonable. I'm technically the only DEI professional. So what that meant is that while my manager had an interest in the space, their knowledge was also reasonably limited. So I guess it made sense to reach out to a specialist in that space, and that's why we commenced the coaching journey.
Yeah, cool. And did you have any hesitations about signing up?
Not really, if I'm honest. I've always done some form of coaching in my previous work, so I really value it. I suppose, if I'm perfectly honest, the cost of coaching is something that, generally is a deterrent, for want of a better word. But I was really lucky in that when I approached my manager, and they were really supportive of it. And so, yeah, there was no hesitation, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. And that's a quite familiar experience, people feeling like it's coaching can feel expensive, particularly if you haven't done it before or you haven't actually asked your manager whether it's something that...
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your experience of the coaching that we did together? What kind of stood out for you?
So for me, I suppose I was a bit nervous about what it would look like, but I really appreciated that from the get-go, you were really clear about your method, and then I guess the boundaries of what we would or wouldn't, so to speak, how it would work. But again, that was also really flexible. So, distinctly for me, working through challenges I was having and you being very clear around this is how I'll support you to sort of manage those challenges. But I really appreciated that you also said, there might be times where I'll offer to provide solutions, but it's up to you whether or not, you want me to go down that path. And I found that really valuable because I previously have jumped, solution focused has been sort of how I've worked, but it meant that I knew that the option was there. And so I would never feel that I never came into a coaching session feeling like, I'll come out of it not really feeling more informed. So that was really reassuring.
Oh, that's good feedback, because, I obviously set that up at the start of all the coaching, but you don't know how it resonates. Yeah, so it's nice to hear. Was there a moment in the coaching that shifted things for you in terms of how you were doing the DEI work?
Yeah, there were probably a couple of moments. I think in each session, I really came away with renewed sort of energy about how I might tackle something slightly differently to how I had always been doing things. One of the things I think that really, as an overarching, I guess method that worked for me from you, Bree, was that always being able to give me an alternate view without taking away from what I was doing. So an example of that was when we were working through an anti-racism policy that we've been working on, and you really gave me some good advice around how a zero tolerance view or standpoint, so to speak, could actually be divisive. And it was, even though that sounds probably quite sensible, it was just something that in my mind I'd had really set in stone that's what we needed to be, that's what the organization's goal should be. And so hearing that alternate perspective, and working through that and understanding why, because initially when you first said it, I was a bit like, oh, can we not be, so I think it was understanding the areas of grey. So we can still be moving forward with the work and progressing the work positively, but it doesn't always have to be 0 to 100. It's okay if that actually it's along the continuum.
Yeah, that's a good one. I do remember that. And just for those listening, we're talking about this idea of having zero tolerance for discrimination or racism, which in concept is a brilliant idea. In practice, sometimes that prevents people from wanting to actually report things, or to engage with our processes and procedures because they're concerned of what the outcome might be on the other person, and it can kind of reduce the amount of information we get.
Exactly. And I think it was that, what will our staff who are reporting, how will they feel about it? And that was the bit that I had missed, so, or had sort of, forgotten about. So that was really valuable.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I remember that. That was a good thing to work through. What surprised you about the process? Was there anything that you weren't expecting?
Probably, if I'm honest, from a logistics perspective, I wasn't expecting you to be so flexible with your time. So we had a 3-month program, but for the month of April, we were basically offline with Easter and Anzac Day and public holidays and school holidays, and you were really happy to say, let's just ignore April and then we'll extend our end date. I'm not sure if you want me advertising that to your future coaching people, but that was I found that really valuable, because I think one of the things which I didn't mention at the start about my hesitation with coaching, which I didn't really have any, but I do feel like some coaching programs out there are really rigid. They advertise what they are and what they definitely aren't. And I feel like your coaching program has much more flexibility than that.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. I think we all needed to forget April this year. It was chaos.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely. I don't think we can run an inclusion business if we're not actually being inclusive with the way we deliver stuff. So yeah, no, it's nice that you mentioned that. How, if any, do you feel different? Is there ways that you notice in your approach to the work now that's different than how you would have approached it before we started?
I think so. I think I'm more balanced. I think I probably used to consider what issue or barrier we were facing and feel like I knew where I wanted to be, and so would get a bit frustrated with the process. But I think now I'm much more considered. My understanding and my knowledge base has really improved, so I am able to sort of consider as many of the perspectives as I can. I've got a better understanding too of resources that are out there for me as well, which is great. So I've joined your network, which has been great, and just meeting other professionals in the space. Even things like my social media streams and things like that are all changing in the direction of the DE&I space. So I'm getting much more content, I guess, without searching for it, which is great, because it's always really relevant to what I'm doing.
Yeah, very handy. All right, last question.
Okay.
If someone is on the fence about whether they should get some coaching as a DEI practitioner, what would you say to them?
I think I would say that apart from, because of the nature of the work, it's an incredibly supportive space, so there's nothing to be afraid of. I think knowledge is power, and And so is support in this space. So often DE&I practitioners are sole practitioners in moderately or very large organisations, and the same messaging. I've got a very wide breadth of workload and topics, and I'm only one person or I'm only on a small team. And so I think you can never have enough support. And so and I think that's what coaching, the education was huge, but the support for me that I was moving in the right direction, it did keep me on task a little bit too, so knowing that I was meeting with you, meant that I really pushed on some things. But yeah, I think there's only positives to coaching.
Beautiful. Love it. No, I've absolutely loved having you as a client and our conversations, and so glad that you're joining the network. For those who are listening, if you sign up as a coaching package, you get entry to the DEI network, and we meet once a month and talk all things DEI, share challenges and successes with each other, and network with each other. So that's just part of the coaching package. Thanks for giving me some of your time to share your experiences, because I know it's really helpful for others to hear when they are thinking about whether they're thinking about coaching with me or just thinking about coaching in general. It's good to hear what other people's experiences are. So thanks for coming on, and I look forward to seeing you in the network.
Thanks, Bree. No worries.